Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to the Healthful Wellness Podcast, the Balance and Thrive podcast. Here we explore the real root causes of why so many women today feel tired, burnt out, inflamed, and even just unheard. I'm your host, Faria. I'm a certified health, wellness, and nutrition coach. I'm a mother, I'm an educator, and I'm someone who is deeply committed to helping women reclaim their energy, their confidence, and their hormonal balance by syncing back with the natural rhythms of their body. So, in today's episode, it's going to be incredible, inshallah. We're going to talk about a topic that affects every woman, yet it's often misunderstood, it's often misdiagnosed, and it's often dismissed, and it's about your hormones, but not from the lens of your hormones have just gone wild, or not from the lens of let's just take a pill and fix this. Today, what we want to do is peel back those layers and ask a different set of questions. What if your hormones aren't actually broken? What if they're just responding to the environment that you are living in? What if your symptoms like heavy periods, PCOS, fatigue, mood swings, what if they're just actually messengers and not mistakes? And what if your healing doesn't start in a labeled prescription bottle, but it starts with the lifestyle changes? It starts with the correct nutrition. It starts with emotional safety. And even remedies as subtle and as powerful as homeopathy. So today I'm joined by my lovely guest who I've known for many years now, Barbara Hanachova, a registered midwife, certified homeopath, craniosacral therapist, lactation consultant, and she has over 2 decades of experience supporting women through the full arc of life, from puberty to pregnancy to postpartum and beyond. Barbara brings a unique blend of ancient wisdom and modern practice, using homeopathy to gently support hormonal repair, emotional balance, and immune resilience, especially in children and women navigating complex systems. So today, together, what we're going to be exploring are things related to what hormones actually do behind the scenes, how homeopathy works, why syncing your lifestyle and your emotions can radically shift your hormonal patterns, and what small, gentle shifts you can begin today, no matter what age you are and no matter what stage in life you are. So this episode today is an invitation to just slow down, tune in, and maybe reframe your hormonal story, because healing doesn't have to mean hustling, overhauling, punishment, doing everything yesterday, or even living in fear of your cycle. It starts by listening, it starts by coming back into rhythm, it starts with that feeling of safety from your nervous system, it starts with your mitochondria. So grab a warm drink if you have to, sit by an open window, inshallah, and let's begin. So Jazakallah khair, Barbara, for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Walaikum assalam, alhamdulillah, jazakallah khairan for having me, and barakallahu fiki for the lovely introduction, Faria.
Barakallah feek, barakallah feek. Okay, Barbara, excited to have you here. Share with us, because I'm pretty sure, just like you, I see women all the time, and many, if not all, have hormonal issues. So let's just start off. When a woman comes into your practice and she's saying that she's feeling hormonally off, where do you begin?
That's a really great question, because it's not just about the hormones, right? So I'm not that much interested in her blood results, for example, but I like to hear her story. That's how I always start, tell me your story, because before we talk about the hormones as such, or the tests, or whatever treatments or anything else the woman had, I need to understand what's been happening in her life, what stresses she's had, how she sleeps, um, how are her emotions, whether she had throughout her life. And it's not just now, it's throughout the whole life, right? Whether she had any like emotional traumas that she didn't quite processed yet. How is her diet? How was she born even? How was her mother's pregnancy with her? Because all of these things affect us. Also, if she had children, how were her pregnancies, whether she had any losses, all these things. And how does she feel in her body on like a day-to-day basis? Because
Mm.
hormones or anything else in the body doesn't go out of balance just like that, just randomly. It's
Mm.
always a response to how we live, how we feel, what's going on for us. And I really like what you said earlier, that hormones are just messengers. Yeah, it's not
Mm.
that the hormones are broken. The hormones are hormones. They're just messengers. They're just telling us, pay attention to me, something is going on, right? So that's what I do. I begin by mapping basically the whole terrain, if you like, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, lifestyle, all of that. And then from there, we can see what that particular woman needs, what her particular body is trying to communicate.
Wow, Allahumma barak. I love that. That is exactly, what is needed. And I think people don't often realize just how far back it can go, just how far
100%.
back, that impact. Yes, subhanallah. Okay. So, I mean, there's this other thing that also happens with a lot of women because they get certain things checked and everything seems fine, right? So a lot of the time when I speak to sisters, like they say, when gone to our GP, we've gone through the normal system, they feel like they're not really being heard. They feel like they're just being dismissed.
Mm.
So why do you think that they say, I'm just feeling dismissed, something feels off in my body, but no one's listening? What's going on?
Yeah. That's for some reason very common, and I feel like it's becoming more and more common thing. I don't know if it's because the doctors don't have time to listen to the women, but one
Yeah.
big thing is that conventional medicine basically literally waits until your blood
Yes.
test numbers become abnormal and then they
Yeah.
start acting, right? That's one thing. Another thing is that conventional medicine doesn't usually look at the bigger picture. They just
Mm.
want to see, the numbers, or something on the skin, or pain in a certain part of the body, and they just look in isolation on that one thing without,
Yeah.
you know, asking the person how they are.
Mm.
That's quite interesting. Actually, I'm a bit digressing, but I'm just binge watching with my son this series um, about doctors. Basically, it's called Resident, and one of the doctors, he does this quite often. That he takes the patient and takes them somewhere quiet, and then he asks, tell me your story, I want to hear your story, right? But for that you need to have time. You can't have just 10 minutes
Yeah.
in your GP surgery
Cool.
and next one outside the door. Another thing is that we as women, we are highly intuitive, right? So
Yes.
we notice subtle shifts in our bodies long before any lab test can pick them up, right?
Agree.
And that's where,
Agree.
where the issue is, because we pick up these signals and we then go to the doctor, but the doctor kind of doesn't, they it's you can't see it, you can't touch it, that's something that you can't really like give evidence
Not
to the doctor.
not tangible.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so they are just waiting for something like a proof, if you like.
Yes.
So and that's where the issue is. The healthcare system is trained to treat disease, not imbalance,
Mm,
so when your tests and everything looks fine, then the woman is usually told, oh, it's just stress, it's just aging, it's in your head. And
yeah.
if they do prescribe something, then you're likely to get antidepressant pills. That's where it ends, basically. Or maybe they will send you for like talking therapy. So,
Mm,
but we as women, we are sensing these early whispers and dysregulations in our bodies.
uh-huh.
And that matters. We need to do something about it, because that's what we said just with the previous question. The hormones are the messengers, and all
Yeah.
other, like the symptoms that we feel, what we're picking, those are messengers, the whispers, right? And that
Yes.
matters, because if we don't address it, and you've said it many times on your group, because if we don't address these like early whispers, then they will become louder and louder and louder
Yeah. Yeah.
until we develop the PCOS, the diabetes, or whatever else,
Mm,
until the blood tests show that there is something going on, which, in terms of the blood test, we might touch on it later. The blood tests are
yes.
also not like foolproof.
Mm,
And then the doctor starts acting and gives you some pills, but that's a little bit too late.
yes.
And it's like if you live in a house and your roof is dripping, yeah, when it's
Yeah.
raining, and you
Yes.
just put a pot under there and you're just catching the
True.
drops, and you're not doing anything about it. Slowly, slowly, it will be leaking more and more until the roof basically caves on your head.
Yep.
So the
Yep.
same
Love
thing.
that analogy. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's such a sad reality that
Yeah.
this intuition that we have and that we know something's off, but it's like we kind of like gaslight ourselves in a sense and say like, well, no, because my numbers are not saying that, the doctor hasn't given me that diagnosis. That we ignore it, and we just, I don't know if that comes from like a nurturing thing, or I should say lack of nurturing,
Mm.
or how we've been brought up in our cultures just to kind of soldier through,
Yeah, I
like
think it's the
just
whole system. It's
yeah.
it's not necessarily our cultures where we come from. It's more the global, let's say, healthcare medical system kind of culture. And like it might sound like a conspiracy theory or something, but there is element of power, if the institutions have power over us, and we
Yeah.
kind of uh, believe them and follow what they're saying, then it's very
Yeah.
easy to kind of make us believe it's just in our head, right?
Yes.
And put
Yeah.
everybody on antidepressants, and and kind of, so over the years, especially in like recent decades, we've been so conditioned with the system, and it starts already in schools, where like the kids have to do what they're told and not like
Mm,
pay attention to themselves, what they want to do,
yeah.
things like that. So we kind of are like conditioned or made to forget how to listen to ourselves,
True.
and
Very
that's
true.
the whole thing.
Yeah, and as you said, like with the medical system, it isn't designed to search out the root cause. It isn't
Mm,
designed to treat dysregulation.
yeah,
If if and this, and it's so sad. Like the number of sisters I speak to, and they said, well, but I had the blood test, and my doctors didn't say anything. And I said, well, yeah, because you weren't over that threshold.
yeah,
You weren't at the point for them to be able to give you a medication for it.
mm,
That's why they didn't say anything to you,
yeah,
subhanallah. So it's a shame. It's a shame,
yeah,
and I
it
think that,
is. Plus,
and
another
I think
thing
that's
is that
important.
the healthcare system also is not catered for individual. It's all
Yes,
generalized, right? So
exactly,
everybody
exactly.
is seen as everybody else. There is no scope for individualization, and that doesn't work either, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's hard.
Yeah, and I think your perspective is really important in the sense that you've been in in that realm, right? You've worked for the NHS, right? So you've
Yes.
seen it happen. And
Yes.
did you what made you step away?
Well, on a personal level, it was the stress. I basically got myself into really bad place where I was really stressed and burned out. And it was
Mm,
taking toll on my own health and the whole family, because, that's another thing that lots of people don't see, that when we as women, as mothers, are stressed, depressed, or whatever else is going on for us, it's kind of
mm,
affecting the whole family,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Men as well, but not to that extent,
True.
right? So and as mothers, we know it from, like, when we have babies. That's where it's like the most, let's say, visible, right? If the mother is
Mm,
stressed, her baby will be stressed and will be crying and all of that. Once the mother calms down, you can see, like, almost instantly that the baby relaxes, calms, and
yeah.
everything is fine.
Yeah.
But it in a similar way, it affects older kids, our husbands, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody else in our sort of vicinity, if you like. So it was one
Of
thing.
course.
And another thing was, unfortunately, seeing that at the moment, NHS is NHS is struggling. It's
Mm,
understaffed. People are overworked, stressed, and all that. And the quality of care is going down, unfortunately, right? And it's very difficult if you are trying to do things differently, or trying to kind of advocate for the. So as a midwife, obviously, I've worked with pregnant women, so advocating for the pregnant women, for the care they want, or should have, is really difficult, and it's
mm,
getting more and more difficult. So I just basically uh, jumped the ship, if you like, because I just couldn't handle it anymore, and I just couldn't be part of it anymore, basically.
mm.
It
Okay.
just,
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
the so you have your own, let's say, views and opinions, and ethics, or whatever you want to call it, and there is another one for the NHS, right? And there is always a gap. It's never gonna be 100% aligned. It's
Yeah.
just the tolerance everybody has for that gap between their own values and, let's say, the NHS or the mainstream healthcare values. And the gap for me personally has gotten too wide to be
Mm.
aligned in any way, shape, or form. So I just couldn't do it anymore, basically.
Oh, no. Yeah. Okay. So, when we often hear, okay, hormonal imbalances, and I think it's become quite a bit of a buzzword recently, how do we actually know if it is really a hormonal imbalance, or is it just stress that we're under?
Well, it's never just stress, basically. The hormonal imbalance and life stress are kind of inseparable.
Mm,
You almost can't have one without the other. If you're chronically stressed, that is hormonal imbalance, because stress elevates your stress hormones like cortisol, adrenaline. Um,
mm,
and those hormones, because everything in the body is interlinked, so the stress hormones are linked to our reproductive hormones. So when your cortisol is constantly elevated, that causes progesterone to drop, estrogen becomes dominant, thyroid can slow down, and all of that.
mm.
And then symptoms appear. right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we can't really like separate stress from hormones. So how I look at it is that the nervous system um, needs to cope with life. And it's just
Mm.
about looking at that nervous system and trying to figure out whether it's still coping or whether it's not coping at all, or how can we support it. But, you know,
Right.
it's, you can't
Yeah.
separate it. You can't separate it. You can't say it's just stress.
SubhanAllah. And I suppose that also comes from, I mean, what I talk about in the fact that everything is just data to the body. Everything is just information, and
Mm.
the body will then interpret whatever cues, whatever the signals are coming in, and then respond accordingly.
Yeah,
So yeah, one thing can't actually be pulled away from the other.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
And what is very typical, like what I can say, what was happening for myself, for example, um, because I was under so much stress,
yeah.
when I wasn't at work, I was so tired all the time. I needed to
Mm,
sleep a lot, I was not functioning. And it took me a while to actually understand what's going on, because that's a very interesting thing as well, because when you are in that situation, you don't see it, especially if
yes,
everybody else around you is in a similar situation, right? So
true.
until you kind of step out of it, and obviously it's easier for me to talk about it now because I can see it from the outside, but when I was
Mm,
there, I didn't see it, even though my daughters um, kept telling me, "Mom, you need help, Mom, you're depressed, Mom, you're stressed." um, I just I just thought, oh, they're teenagers, they don't know what they're talking about,
yeah.
and things like that. But now I see that they could see what I couldn't see, right? And
Mm,
so women can come to us and say, oh, I'm constantly tired and I don't know why. And then they might be thinking, oh, maybe it's my hormones because I'm perimenopausal and whatnot. But actually, you might just have a bit too much stress in your life, which
true.
you might not be seeing. I've heard it so many times. I don't feel stress. I don't think like I have too much stress. But if you actually kind of talk about it a bit more and try to like unpick different things, you realize that actually there's so much going on for you that
Mm.
you know,
Agree.
maybe you need to slow down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Slowing down is a big one, which I think we don't. And I think if your children are young, even if you've got kids who are older, we don't tend to do that as women.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that can be taken as a positive and a negative. And positive in the sense that sometimes we can be so driven by whatever it is that we are, going after.
mm,
But then on the flip side of the coin is that it's also something that runs us down.
yes,
And
100%.
we don't pause. But yes, subhanallah. SubhanAllah. Okay, going back to the blood test scenario that we mentioned. So why is it then that you often, and you probably see it as well, and you probably saw it in the NHS, that everything comes back as normal,
Hmm.
everything's in ranges, um but then the woman, she's like, but how can that be the case? Like, I feel terrible, like I'm just tired, I'm exhausted, I'm inflamed, I'm moody, what's going on?
Yeah, yeah, it is very common, and yes, I've seen it many times, and I've treated several women for like infertility effectively, who came to me saying all my blood tests are fine, yet I still can't conceive. But that's
Mm,
exactly the problem, right? Because uh, we need to understand that blood test is just a snapshot in time. And I think you've
yeah,
mentioned it many times in your group as well. It's not the whole movie, if you like, right?
yeah,
So our hormones are fluctuating in the body. They fluctuate from hour to hour, day to day, um,
yeah,
across our menstrual cycle, right? So
yeah,
um, your hormones will be somewhere else when you are on your period, when you are around ovulation, when you are pre-ovulation, post-ovulation, all of that, right? But the standard tests check total hormones. That's another thing that, there are forms of hormones that are, because, how to explain it? So hormones also kind of are produced in, let's say, inactive form, then that then needs
Yes.
to be taken up by other chemicals in the body and activated, right? But the tests kind of look at the whole amount of hormones, not just the active forms.
Yes.
And rarely they test at the right time of the cycle, for example, right? Especially if we are looking at the fertility issues and things. So for lab test to be normal doesn't necessarily mean it is normal the whole time, right? Maybe at the point in time that you had the blood test, your hormones were actually okay. But if they have taken the blood just day before or day after, it also depends on you. Did you have a good night's sleep? Did you have too much stress before you came to the appointment? Maybe you were running late and you were sprinting or something, or
True.
whatever. All that can affect your test results. And another important thing with the blood test is that the normal ranges that they have, again, they are generalized for the whole population, and they're
Yes.
based on averages. They're not
Yes.
individualized. They are not based on optimal well-being for that a particular person. So you can be within that average range, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're balanced, right? So that's why we have to look not just at the numbers on the printout from the blood test, but we have to look also at the patterns and symptoms, at the whole picture.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, and I really think like the symptoms that someone actually tells you what they are experiencing, how their energy feels, how their moods have been, how their sleep is. All of these things can actually give you more information than maybe even a blood test. So that's why it's important to work
Exactly.
and have that level of detail with the person that you're working with to truly understand
Yeah,
what situation they're
100%.
in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's also, a lot of the times women come to me and they're asking, do I need to get my blood tests first before I come to you?
Yes.
Do I need to see
Yes.
my doctor first to get diagnosis before I come to you? And I always tell them, well, it's up to you, but for me, I don't necessarily need to see the blood tests or have any specific diagnosis. I just want to know what's going on for you. I just want to
Yes.
hear your story, basically. Because
Yes.
that's,
Yes.
as you said, that's often more important and like beneficial in terms of how we can make the person feel better than seeing some numbers or having a
Agree.
label.
Agree. And I don't really think labels are helpful sometimes. I think
Yeah,
once you get that label, you want to take it and own it and maybe use it as an excuse or hold it as like, yes, this is the
yeah,
thing that's wrong with me. And
yeah.
I always say this to like it 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 also impacts the nervous system getting that diagnosis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And like you must know, like traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. I think even like Tib and Nabawi, like they don't have certain labels that they attach to people. If you went to one of these practitioners, they would say something like, okay, maybe there's a lot of moisture in you,
yeah,
or you're a bit too warm, or something like that. If someone hears that, they don't immediately shut down. They think, oh, that I can deal with that. That's not something complicated, not some long name that I can't pronounce.
yes,
So even just something as simple as that
yeah,
um can impact us.
exactly. These labels often sound so definitive and so negative, and there is lots of like negativity associated with the diagnosis, with the labels. Whereas if you say, there is just a bit too much dampness in you, we need to, so you need to eat something, I might say something completely stupid, something more drying to balance it out. That sounds positive. That sounds like there is a scope for improvement. There is somewhere to go, something you can do.
Yes, exactly. Hope. It gives you hope.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. And what you know about hormonal imbalances, Barbara, do you feel like they can be something that's actually protective, not something that's, a malfunction, not something that's an error in our system?
Well, yeah, definitely. As we already said, every symptom is the body's way of saying, hey, please look at me differently. I'm here. Just check. So, for example, if you have irregular cycles, that may be protective in a way that, if you're at the same time under extreme stress, the irregular cycles might be actually protective in terms of conserving energy, because having your period is a huge energy output from the body. Yeah, the body needs a lot of energy. So that's also why, for example, in the past, like long time ago, and maybe in some like indigenous cultures, they still do it. Women had a special place, like a special hut or something, where they would go when they were on their period, and they would just rest and maybe share stories or whatever. And other women, either the older ones who don't menstruate anymore or the young ones who don't menstruate yet, would kind of look after them, would give them like foods and all that, make sure that they're nourished and warm and all that, and rest, because it is a lot of energy. So having a period is actually time in our cycle where we should naturally slow down, rest, and focus on ourselves, which we, living where we're living, we can't do, because it's constant go, 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 regardless, right? Like those poor girls who have their periods and they have to do the PE class. How much shame is there if she just wants to sit it out, right? So it's not, in our society, it's not catered for these things. So what then can happen? And that creates stress in itself, right? So, and it's like a vicious cycle. So if this keeps repeating, then the body says, okay, fine. So we can't rest. We are in too much stress. So we're just not gonna menstruate. We're not gonna ovulate. We're not gonna menstruate, and that will conserve the energy, right? Or another thing, like low libido, can be a signal of exhaustion. Again, I'll be very bold here. If you have sex with your partner, that's a lot of energy. And a lot of people after intercourse feel tired and fall asleep, right? So, and that's a natural thing. But so if we are stressed and exhausted and all that, then we don't have that drive, because that would be too much energy, which we don't have, right? So again, it's kind of a protective mechanism, right? But then we go to the doctor with these things, and they start giving us hormonal medication and whatnot, and or antidepressant and stuff, and that's not addressing the root cause. That's just making it worse. So rather than silencing these signals, these messengers, we need to ask ourselves, what actually is my body telling me? What do I need to do? What do I need to change so that my body feels safe again, pretty much? Yeah. And that's, for example, what homeopathy does, because homeopathy listens to the signals rather than suppressing it. And it helps the body to support itself, basically.
Yeah, I love that. Allahumma barik. Yeah, spot on. I really don't think, just what you mentioned about the cycle there, about us pausing, slowing down. I mean, we're supposed to be taking that week before that luteal
Mm,
phase of
yes.
actually slowing down and preparing for that cycle. And then I say to the women that I work with, that's that week that you're on your cycle, you should be considering yourself as postpartum.
Yes.
Everything that you're doing, everything that you're eating, the way you're nurturing yourself. But subhanAllah, you're correct. Our society doesn't support us in that. It doesn't help us. And then it goes back again to us ignoring our body's signals, ignoring what we are intuitively hearing, so
Mm.
subhanAllah. And just what you mentioned about homeopathy, if you could give someone in the room right now, they completely are blank towards homeopathy, how would you sum it up in a few sentences or a short paragraph as to what it is and how it works?
So homeopathy is one of the, let's say, natural therapies, and it works basically by um, stimulating the body's internal abilities or innate abilities to heal itself. It works by looking at the whole picture, at all of the symptoms what the person has, not just physical symptoms, but also emotional, the sleep, all these things,
Mm.
and helping the body to rebalance
And
in a
what
nutshell.
was what was it that interested you? Like, how did you come across it, and what made you go towards becoming a homeopath?
So, well, I've been using homeopathy for many, many years, basically ever since I have kids, and my eldest is 23, so it's quite a long time.
Wow. Yeah.
And I did come across homeopathy when I was pregnant with her, uh, on the antenatal course. The midwife who did the course for us, she talked to us about all sorts of stuff, about herbs, about aromatherapy, but also about homeopathy. And then when she was born, our pediatrician, so back home, we don't have just GPs. We do have also family pediatrician, if you like, if you have kids.
Okay. Okay.
So our pediatrician, she was a homeopath as well. Um, so anytime the kids needed something, she would always give us a choice. Do you want like normal medication or do you prefer homeopathy? So we always chose homeopathy. And yeah, so that's how I kind of started with it. And then I like, as you go, you learn lots of things, and I got my kit and all of that. And so ever since then, we've used homeopathy for all sorts of stuff, your common ailments, coughs, colds, minor burns, injuries, things like that. And, as a midwife, you come across these things as well, especially because for most of my midwifery career, I was what is often called low-risk midwife, meaning working with women on birth centers, home births, and all
Yeah.
of that. So within, let's say, this demographic, you come across women who are into these things, and they're asking, what can I use? What would help me? So, I learned more and more, and I used homeopathy as well as herbs and aromatherapy with all these families that I worked with. And then I just thought, you know what, it might be interesting to study, because before that I studied aromatherapy and herbalism, and obviously homeopathic remedies, many of them come from plants.
Yes.
So I was interested in how different it is from herbs as such and from the essential oils and what is similar. So I just thought, yeah, it's kind of nice. And then COVID hit, and it was like, well, if it ever happens that I can't be a midwife or, work with people face
Yeah.
to face, then I can do this online, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
this is a nice addition. And what is also good about it is that it's so holistic that it doesn't, I mean, all the natural therapies are, but it doesn't just, you know, slice you up into body parts and, you know, it just looks at everything, and it includes also the emotional, the spiritual, and all of that. So it's just amazing.
Allahumma barik. And I think from the longest time of knowing you, I've always seen you as studying something, doing something, Allahumma barik. I remember being in the park and like seeing our children playing, and you'd always be in a book or, something, which was really nice. Allahumma barik. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I mean,
Alhamdulillah.
I love books. I love reading. I also love knitting. So you can see me sometimes with
Alhamdulillah.
a yarn and, you know,
MashaAllah.
knitting needles. But yeah,
Good,
yeah.
good. Alhamdulillah.
I
Okay,
like
just
to occupy my brain.
good. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. And I think, look,
Alhamdulillah.
if we go back to the hormones and
Yeah, sure.
we talked about like the intuition and the warning signs that that our body does give us. So what are some of the early warning signs that our bodies could be sending us before something like PCOS or before something like Hashimoto's thyroid issues hits?
Right. Well, it's so many. So it could be energy crashes, for example, or sleep changes, or
Mm.
that feeling where you feel tired but wired but tired, you know, that
Yes, yes.
constant fight or flight, mood swings, anxieties, especially if it's like before periods or around periods. Could be skin breakouts, it could be hair changes. How many women these days complain about hair loss, right? It could be
Yeah.
various cravings, especially sugar cravings, or even salt cravings. Weight changes, that's a huge one, right?
Mm.
Especially if it's without like explanation, direct link to something. Um, it could be changes in your period, heavier, lighter, skipping periods, all of that. So, and many, many other little signs and symptoms. Um, Even like seasonal allergies, you've never had like hay fever or anything, and all of a sudden one year your eyes start streaming and your nose and all of that. So that's also a sign that, you know, something is happening. Dry skin, you name it, pretty much anything and everything. But you know, these are just little nudges that something is off in the sort of adrenal, thyroid, ovary triangle, if you
Yeah.
like. So yeah, and as we said before, if we don't respond to these, let's say, subtle or small hints, then they will be louder and louder, and one day it will be diagnosed as PCOS, Hashimoto's, or whatever else.
SubhanAllah, and I'm just thinking, just all these things that you've mentioned and, spot on. People nowadays just think, oh, it's just a bad night's sleep. Oh, it's
Mm,
just a skip rash. They don't really connect the dots. They don't really think
yeah,
that it can be anything that as
yeah.
serious.
I mean, it
You
can
know?
happen, right? We all can have a bad night once in a while,
Yes,
or, you know, and then feel crap in the morning. Fair enough, that can happen. But if it's happening every day or
yes,
often, then, you know, and then also it depends what actually is having a bad night, right? Do you have bad night every time, or have you ever have you ever had a good night, something that you can describe as a good night? That's also with the sleep, that's a very tricky thing, because these days lots of people think, oh, I had 8 hours of sleep, so I must be fine. But it's not
yes.
just about the number of hours you slept,
Mm,
it's about the quality of sleep. So you might, there are people who might have maybe 5 hours of sleep, but good quality sleep, and they're fine.
yeah.
And then there are people who sleep like 12 hours, but because their sleep is poor quality, it doesn't matter how many hours they sleep, they still will feel like crap, basically.
Mm,
So, you
mm,
know, that's also something to consider.
Yes, definitely. And what would you say about like anxiety? Because that's a big one I hear often amongst the sisters, like mental health, just not feeling with it, feeling overwhelmed. Even things like brain fog, just getting moody often.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
where would you see where's the connection hormonally with that? Is it a hormonal thing? Is it a personality thing? Where do we draw the line?
I mean, yeah, it can be personality, but it can definitely be hormonally linked. And again, it's not just hormones. We can't say she's angry, it's just hormones, right?
Mm, mm,
Like, these days, again, periods, lots of women have mood changes around periods. There are lots of jokes about it, that women get
yes.
moody, angry, raging, and all of that around their periods. So, but it's not just that. We can't dismiss it just like that. It is a known thing that our hormones amplify our emotions, right?
Yeah.
So, low progesterone, for example, can make us feel more anxious and reactive because progesterone has that sort of calming
Yes.
function. Estrogen shifts can heighten our sensitivity to
Mm,
everything, pretty much. Um, so that's also, for example, why a lot of women can all of a sudden get these like seasonal allergies and stuff like that, even though they never had it before, because maybe they are now estrogen dominant for whatever reason, which
mm,
could be because bad sleep, for example, right? Or poor
yeah.
diet or whatever else, or stress at work. Um, so, yeah, but our emotions are also shaped by other things. Obviously, if there is a trauma, if somebody dies in the family, or child is sick, or whatever else, anything that kind of increases load on our nervous system can, of course, bring these emotions as well. But then also, it goes the other way around, that these emotions, because of some emotional trauma, if this is not dealt with appropriately, if there is not a proper grieving period or resolution or
Mm,
whatever, it can affect the hormones as well. So it's like
yeah.
two-way thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you in that. Definitely. And so, because the body will only respond to what it is sensing, right? So if it is sensing that, okay, hold on a second, um, she's in a rough state right now, she's basically, it perceives a threat, then it will signal the hormones to respond accordingly, right? Okay, we need to keep cortisol raised here. Everything needs to be alert, all systems go, and then it shuts down other actions, other things where
Yes,
digestion is a big one.
yes, absolutely.
That gets shut
That's a
down,
big
sleep
one,
gets
yes.
shut down. So yeah, so if we come to that, if we come to digestion right now,
Mhm.
um, where is the hormonal link with that in terms of gut, in terms of bloating and just feeling off stomach wise?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, same as we what we said before, it's connected. Again, everything is connected. So
Mm.
um, the gut helps us metabolize and eliminate hormones, especially excess
Yes,
estrogen, for example.
yes.
There are specific bacteria within our microbiome that are responsible for the estrogen elimination, estrogen balance, and all that. So when our gut is sluggish, inflamed, unhealthy, all of that, then this system doesn't work. Estrogen gets recirculated into the body,
Mm.
and that can then cause the like estrogen dominant symptoms, which could be anything, including PMS, cramps, breast tenderness, but also like more, let's say, more severe issues like fibroids, endometriosis, all sorts of stuff. Another thing is that about 70% or so of our serotonin, which is one of the happy hormones, is actually made in the gut. So again, poor digestion, impaired gut balance can affect mood too. So, and as we said before with the emotional stuff, it works. It is also two-way thing that poor gut health affects the hormones, and also hormones affect the gut. So yeah, and the way digestion works, it's not just about the digestive juices in the gut, it's also about the hormones. There are lots of hormones that help us process everything that goes in, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got impact on the liver and pancreas and everything else. So, you know, then you can easily end up, just because of too much stress or unprocessed emotions, with not just hormonal issues, but also gut issues, where you can have all this bloating and even constipation. Like, that's a very known thing, that
Yes.
emotions and constipation are linked, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and subhanAllah, I mean, like, I suppose one of the easiest ways that you can look at it is if you are, say, emotionally charged, whether that is severe grief, severe upset of any kind, and then you go and sit down to eat. You don't even you can't even swallow sometimes,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
So it's just like our that whole digestive process, it starts before food even hits the stomach, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
So yeah, subhanallah, you know, so I think if you don't understand that, just how much of the hormones, the emotions, the digestion is very, very much linked, subhanallah.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
anyone who comes to me with any kind of digestive issues, yes, you know, we look at the full picture, we look at the emotions, but literally you've got to look at entry point to exit point. There's got to be something going on.
Yes, 100%. And
Oh,
another big thing, especially in recent years, is the screen time, right? How
yeah,
many people eat while
yes,
they're scrolling on their phone or watching TV, or, you know, working, like people in
yeah,
offices, right? They still work,
yeah,
but they're just snacking, eating something. But the
yeah,
problem is, if your brain is not focusing on what you're doing, you know, that's the mindfulness thing, then
yes,
you're not even realizing that you're eating. And then you can end up still feeling hungry just because you did not pay attention to the food. And then you end up overeating, and that can mess up everything else, plus obviously weight gain and all of these things. So
yeah,
it's it's a big issue. Or
it
people
is
just
absolutely,
have maybe short lunch break, so they just run out of the office, grab something, and then eat it while they're
yes,
rushing back to the office.
yes,
So,
yeah,
and then the digestion doesn't work properly, so you don't utilize the food as you should. It doesn't get digested properly, so that can again lead to the bloating and cramps and everything else. Plus, obviously, you're not assimilating enough of the stuff, so it can even lead to malnourishment. So it's well and fine if a woman comes and says, I eat really healthy, I eat salads, I eat this, that, but do you actually have time to sit down and eat and process it properly? Or you just quickly eat your salad because you only have 5 minutes? Then
yes.
that's fine. You have eaten a salad, but your body didn't have time to process it and utilize it. So it's kind of not working as it should.
Subhanallah, it's a big one.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious of time here, and I can see that the questions are coming in thick and fast. So I think if we just wrap up here,
Okay.
if you want to just summarize, inshallah, any final thoughts before we go into the questions. Maybe something about, can something like homeopathy really help with hormones? Like if someone was having quite a severe, say, I don't know, like perimenopausal issues, is homeopathy the answer?
Yes and no. So short answer is, oh no, do it this way. Homeopathy can definitely help. As we said, it's working by stimulating the body's vital force, basically the innate healing intelligence of the body. That's the
Right.
essence of homeopathy. And rather than pushing the hormones or whatever else is going on up or down, it restores the communication between system, between the adrenals, between thyroid, ovaries, pituitary, everything. And it helps the body change. And these changes often feel gradual. It might feel slow, but they're gentle and deeply stabilizing and lasting. But I really want to stress that homeopathy or herbs or whatever else is not the only thing. Basically, you cannot think that you're going to go and see a homeopath, you will take some pills and you'll be fine. As you often say, Faria, if your foundations are not right, then it's not going to happen. So you cannot just rely on somebody giving you some pills and you will be fixed. That's not how it works. There always has to be that groundwork on the nutrition, the lifestyle, how you nourish your body. And that's not nourishing just with food either. Food is a big part, but it's also the emotional nourishment, the physical nourishment, exercise, going outside, having joy in your life, right? And all of these things, your sleep and everything else. I, as a homeopath, can give you all the pills on earth, but I cannot fix what you eat, how you eat, whether you go outside, how you sleep. I can give you guidance on it. As a health and nutrition coach, I can give you guidance on that as well. But you have to do it. You have to take those steps, right? So as Faria often says, you can Google it all, you can try everything out there that you find on social media, but if it's not working for you, work with a practitioner. Because many practitioners these days can guide you, right? And as I said, we always ask about the whole story. We want to map the whole story. And then, as a person, like when I was going through that rough patch with the burnout and all that, even though I am herbalist and homeopath and whatnot, I did not treat myself. I went to a homeopath. We as homeopaths have our own homeopaths, right? And that's very important because as ourselves, and I think that's quite important to say, as ourselves, we cannot see objectively what's going on for us. Yeah, like I said, I didn't see that I'm stressed and burned out and all that, right? Until one day when something happened and I saw. But anyways, so we need somebody who is not emotionally invested to look at the situation, like have that, as you like, they call it in hospitals, having like a helicopter view, right? That you see the whole terrain, you see what's going on, you can put one and one together, right? And I've seen it again and again and again when working with women that, they tell me their story and they feel like I eat really healthy, I exercise and all of that, and still things are XYZ, but they don't see the dots only when we talk about it and I kind of bring it to their attention, then they can go, and they often go and, oh, I
Yes.
didn't realize, because we can't see. That's also why lots of practitioners don't treat their own family. I mean, yes, I do give my kids homeopathy if they have cold or cough or whatever. But if they have something more complex, long-term, chronic, I would not treat them, right? Like when my daughter, she was suffering with alopecia for a few years, I took her to a homeopath, to another homeopath, because I couldn't figure it out myself. So, and I do, in my practice, I do treat a few other homeopaths as well. So yeah, because we need someone to help us look at the situation with a different perspective, with a different lens.
Yes.
So that's really important.
I love that. Allahumma barik. And I think what you said there, see, being in this alternative space for a number of years now, you've probably seen this as well, Barbara, in the sense that people have gone said, okay, I don't like conventional anymore, and they go towards the natural in inverted commas, and they just think, right, if I just switch from taking um, allopathic meds to supplements, everything's going to be okay. But you've just done the exact same thing. You're not doing anything different, right?
Yeah,
And you can't expect a different result by doing the same thing. And that's why one of the main things I always say to the women that I work with, look, you've ended up in the situation that you're in now because of your thought patterns, emotions, routines, habits. It's
yeah,
only changing those, and then using these things like homeopathy, like using herbs, like then thinking about supplements later on. It's only shifting those things and then using those that you're going to get a different result. You know,
100%. Yeah,
Subhanallah. So
yeah.
yeah,
And also, I just want to mention, it's fair enough if somebody wants to move from the conventional allopathic medicine to natural approaches. But again, it's not always the right thing to do it cold turkey, right? Like drop
agree.
everything.
Yes,
If your body has been on some medication for years, that's how the
yes,
body is now used to functioning. And you cannot just um, throw the baby out with the bathwater,
yes,
as they say, right? That can really severely backfire. And then you see people saying, oh, I tried this and that herb or homeopathic or acupuncture or whatever, and
yes,
it didn't work for me. I got worse. You have to
yes,
do this carefully and slowly. You cannot just drop your medication and think that you will take a herb or a supplement and you'll be fine.
mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works. And a lot of parents who have, or even adults who have kids with eczema or adults with eczema and who have been on steroids for a long time will know what I'm talking about, the topical steroid withdrawal symptoms, right? That's what happens. That's why when you're on
Yeah.
steroids, you have to wean off it gradually and slowly. But this is not just about steroids. Any other medication has this impact on the body. So it needs to be gradual. And there is no reason why you can't do both. A lot of people also think that there is one or the other, black and white.
Mm-hmm.
That's not
Mm-hmm.
true. You can do complementary therapies alongside your conventional doctor. There's no problem with that. Oh yeah, maybe the conventional doctor will have problem with that. Natural therapists usually don't. And it's
Mm.
fine, right? You just need to be open about it, especially with the complementary therapies, because many herbs can have interactions with
Yeah.
conventional medicines and things like that. And usually how it works is while you're improving your diet, your lifestyle, and you may be taking herbs or homeopathic remedies or whatever, slowly, slowly, your doctor will see that you're getting better and you will be able to reduce your medications. And hopefully, inshallah, slowly, slowly, you will be able to get off it. But you just need to be patient and help your body kind of rebalance itself.
Agree. Alhamdulillah. Yes, Jazakallah khair. And I think we'll just wrap up there now. Jazakallah khair for your time, Barbara. I do appreciate it. We're just going to take the questions now. I'm going to stop the recording. Jazakallah khair for the ladies who are here live. And yeah, let's go to the questions.